Greetings and welcome back to the lab. Time for another unbox, and let's get moving on the Evil Gray Kitten. This is what I was sent. But if you remember the old one or the previous one, I'm not sure if I sent this as a larger scale. I know for sure that I sent it as being already hollowed out, and so I was hoping to get this in time to work on it. Because the other one I'm going to have to cut open and try and hollow it out. This one should already be hollowed out, although it may not be sanded down, because once again, I use the X resin. It's just the cheapest resin they have, and I figure I'm going to end up doing some, no address, some sanding anyway. So let's see. Oh, all right. Get that. Lots of packing. I want to see what our kitty looks like. And I think it was printed in white. No, okay. Big bag of bubble wrap. Just find an end here. Slice away from myself and see what this ends up looking like at high quality. If I can get it open. Well, I can kind of see the profile of it. And I don't think it's all that much bigger. But this might be good enough for the display. And there is the detail. And there is the hollow. That's really good, because now I can get my fingers up in there to stick the LEDs in. And if I've done it right, somewhere around here, I've got I don't know where that piece went, but let's see how a 5mm LED lines up against the eyes, because that was really kind of one of the. Okay, it's actually a little bit smaller than the eye. I don't know how well that's going to come through, but it's smaller than the eye. But that's actually good, because what I can do is drill out the eyes. That's the plan. And I'm going to put in a couple of red flicker LEDs. You see if I can demonstrate. That's blue. Somewhere around here, I've got red. There's green. There's white. Gonna be the last thing I find, isn't it? There, it escaped under my keyboard. There's the red. And I have now learned that if I turn the lights down, it's not going to be as effective. I hate Ziploc bags that are exactly the same height on each side. Makes it difficult to get them open. Let me try and do it. Pile of stuff. Well, it actually works. Pile of stuff does it that way, I think. Somebody does. So let's see what a red flicker LED looks like. I can get it lined up right, positive and negative. And now try and imagine that. Well, trying to imagine the cat being painted gray, which is not hard. And you got this flickering LED in there. I could have blinking LEDs too. But having this sticking out of the eye sockets, I think, is going to be a little bit freaky. Plus, I have an idea for how to activate it now, and I've ordered something up that I thought was arriving today, but this arrived instead, but I'm not complaining about that. That's actually surprisingly nice and detailed. And it'll basically sit on the ground like that, and I may be able to, where I'm doing it, we've got mulch in a garden bed, so I'll probably put a bit of mulch around it just to make it surrounded so that it'll look like the cat sticking up out of the ground. That's the plan. So I'm happy. This looks good. So I guess the next step is to drill it out and start installing. I got to find the piece that I was just looking for. But let me go find that and we'll take care of it. Okay, it's a few days later. I've been doing a lot of other things. I've got my trigger ready to go. We've got the kitten has been painted. I'm not sure where I was there, but ultimately I did that part that I was looking for. I found it. Actually, I don't know where it is now. But I did find one. It's a panel mount for a 5 mm LED. But I measured the kitten's eyes and realized that's not going to work. So I'm going to have to very carefully drill a 5 mm hole and rely on the depth of the plastic to hold it in. So that's the plan there. Meanwhile, I need to know with the red flicker LED, which I've got set up here, how much current is it drawing and how many volts. So because I've got the trigger hooked up, I can now, and I'm pulling in the meter so you can see, this is the milliamps being drawn. Now it's because it's flickering that this is also flickering. The turns out that basically at a 470 ohm resistor, I've got about the right brightness that makes me happy on this. And I'm pulling about no more than 3.5 milliamps. I can turn this way up and you'll see the light is really bright. And well, actually that's maybe going a little too far. But I mean, that's down to 68. And I think that's just, if you look at it with the kitty, I think that's just going to be too bright. It would be lighting up a whole area versus having the kitty's eyes glowing kind of thing. So I think at about 470, maybe even at 680. So what I'm thinking is if I put two LEDs in parallel, that's going to cut the resistance in half if you work out all the math. Ultimately, half as much resistance would provide twice as much current, but then the two LEDs would share. And even at, like, say, 220, I think that's 220 there. No, that's actually 150. Even at 220, if one of them is in the off state and the other one gets all the power, it's still only drawing what? 7 milliamps at most. You really got to just kind of stare at it for a bit and kind of see where it goes maximum. 6.88 seems to be where it's going. So I think that'll work perfectly. I think I'm going to go with the 220 to power both of the LEDs. Don't really need to know the voltage across as much as I thought I did, because ultimately I'm using the voltage source that I will be using from the trigger. So if I stand still for a minute, it should shut off. It should. There it goes. And then if I just wave my hand, I got it back. So the motion sensor is working. Now I can set up the kitty. So I'm going to clean this mess up, get the drill out, and we'll try to very carefully drill through the evil kitten's eyes. All right. I've got some drill bits here. Which side do I need to move? There, that side. I want to start with a smaller drill bit and hope that that gets me a little bit closer. So this looks like it's the 2.2, roughly half the way there. The other thing is really small drill bits don't necessarily fit in the drill. Yeah, I've learned if I go too big too fast, then I get kind of greedy. It doesn't quite work. So, oh boy, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this. Ooh, I can lean him on his ears. Well, I almost had it. All right, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to get a knife and try and cut in a bit. I hope that works because I've only got one shot at this. Otherwise, I'd have to print another one, and there's no time. Try not to hurt myself. Maybe you can use the knife, get the hole started. Yeah, that might be it. Let's see. Through, it's a little on the low side. Let's see if we can't match the other eye. Oh, by the way, I did find the panel mount. It was right here. The problem is this is too big. Once I put the LED in, it's still got that brim around it, and that's going to end up, it's a little bit bigger than the recess here. So, see, put it again. Wait. Going through. Oh boy, that looks really weird with the two holes for eyes. All right, that's got that. Now let's put that particular bit away. And these I usually use with my, what's it called? I want to say vice grip or hand vice. It's basically it's a small manual drill, and so you can really get precision, and that's why I got such small bits there. But in this case, I don't really have the time to sit and very carefully try to do that, and I just got to hope that I don't do too much damage here. Retract that back, get the 5mm, and this is where it really gets critical. I need to be reasonably well lined up to get those LEDs in there. And of course, it's a circular bit, which tends to get caught in my drill and doesn't want to turn. All right, that's one. I could feel it wobbling while I did that. But before we do any more drilling, let's grab an LED and see if it'll fit. Here's the LED I was playing with before. And that's not as tight as I wanted. This one might be a little closer. But now the fun part is getting it in from the back. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do that. Probably going to have to bend I'm going to have to pre-assemble all of this with the wires, but I'll probably have to bend it over at 90 degree and try and get it in there. But there's the cat with the hollowed out eyes, and yeah, they don't line up right. But hopefully, nobody really. I'm learning with this whole project to kind of lean into the mistakes, just keep going, and hope it doesn't end up looking so bad because I think I'm just super critical about things myself. What probably would have made more sense would have been with the file that I printed would have been to have it remove the eyes on the computer before I had this printed. And then it would have lined up that much better. But it is what it is. So we got that. Now the next thing we need is a 220 ohm resistor. So let me get that and I'll be right back. And then we're also going to need some wire and some tools. Get those out. I had a lot of tools out doing a lot of things for this project. That should get me there. And I'm going to need to plug in the soldering iron while I'm thinking about it. And there it is. Okay, we got that turned on. So the idea is I need 2 of these now. And I put those are the yellows. Where are the reds? I think that's the reds. That's white. Here's red. Okay. I need 2 of these. I'm going to wire them in parallel. Then I'm going to add the resistor and some wire to make them a little bit longer. And this is going to get tricky because I need to clamp them in something. I swear that kitten is looking at me right now. Man, what the heck did you do to my eyes? So something, oh, I can see it. The red has come off. Well, let's go ahead and just put it this way and see. Yep, there we go. We got 2 red lights. And I can try to stand still, but I don't know if that's going to work. But there you go. That's your proof of concept. Next thing, I got to try and get this thing stuffed in here, and that's probably going to be horrid for you to actually watch. So I'll do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, finally got it all working. Now I got to do some extensions, but I'm going to stand still here for a moment. Hopefully the evil gray kitten will stop. And now if I move from further away, it sets it off. The problem, it turned out with the trigger, was right here. It was the sensor. The lens was still in there, but the sensor itself had backed out. So that's why it wasn't triggering, but real close kind of thing. So that's what was going on with that. That takes care of the trigger. I'm going to move on to the other parts and get them wrapped up, get everything in the garden and ready to go. Thank you so much for watching.